Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Grace of a Military Child in Life podcast. Military families are not like your traditional family. They are strong, brave, resilient, and some of the most incredible people I know. My name is Gracie, a U.S. Army brat, and I am your host. I am honored to be able to give military family members like myself a place for them to share their stories and experiences in the military life. Stay tuned for this week's guest. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Grace of a Military Child in Life. Today, I'm here with Hannah, who is a military child. So, Hannah, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Good. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited to have you on. And, we met a couple weeks ago, but we really didn't have the time to dive deep into what military life is like. So, kind of just give me an overview of what military life has been like for you.
For me, I wasn't involved in it for super long. My dad passed when I was 6. So, I was in like Fairbanks and a few other places. And then we moved to Fort Bragg and, so there was some moving and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your dad. That must have been so tough, especially at a young age.
Yeah, I think definitely it did leave kind of a hole in my life, especially growing up. And then more recently, I feel like it's weird because it's been so long.
Yeah.
And I just sometimes forget that maybe that's why I'm so anxious or whatever. And I'm like, why am I like this? But I had this tragedy happen to me when I was a child, and that was rough. But
right.
Yeah.
And even as a 6-year-old, I'm very fortunate that my dad is still here, and I was 9 when he got hurt. And at that age, 6 and 9 are very different ages. You can't really compare the two. It's like apples and oranges. But, at those young ages, it's like your brain isn't fully processed and it's not fully done developing. And so trauma happens and trauma strikes and you can't avoid it. Like it's there, it already happened, but trauma strikes and then you have to continue on with life for the rest of your life as you knew it. And even if that means that a person who literally your parent, there's no words to describe, the connection between a parent and their child, and losing a parent, especially at that such a young of an age, it's hard to comprehend. So you kind of unknowingly suppress it.
Yeah.
And then you move on with life. And then, I'm sure it would hit you, in school when somebody would say, oh, yeah, and my dad and my dad and my dad. And, but then you get to this age, we're all adults now. And it's like, oh, this really happened. And I didn't deal with it because a 6-year-old can't deal with trauma like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think, it's an interesting sort of experience to grow up with because it, like you said, it is you don't deal with it when you're 6 because you're 6. I don't even know if most 6-year-olds can wrap their heads around that kind of thing. And then you go through school and Veterans Day, they're singing all the military songs, and then you freak out and have a panic attack. Or I don't know if that's everyone's experience, but growing up, that was a pretty consistent thing each year around that. Yeah. And it was kind of embarrassing to start crying about that in front of all of my classmates.
I think that, I can see why it would be embarrassing, but I also think that it's it's just something that's emotional now,
Yeah.
those sorts of things. Like, and it's something, for me at least, it's something that I find pride in,
Mhm.
and, the national anthem, like Stars and Stripes, red, white, and blue. It's like something that I'm just so prideful in
Mhm.
because, again, like I'm very thankful my dad is still here, but like I've seen the sacrifices firsthand. I've seen the casualties that have happened, and I've seen the injuries,
Mhm.
and all the way from something as simple as a broken bone all the
Mhm.
way to, like, you know the man I work for is a quadruple amputee, like, so the wide range of that, and 70% burn victims. So go through life, especially at that young of an age, appreciating, I think, a lot more. And so while, breaking down, having a panic attack, it is,
Yeah.
it's very embarrassing, anyways, but I think shows so much pride and so much emotion, and how much that you're actually aware of what's going on in this country.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it also just like having these experiences just makes you appreciate the people around you a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really go through life knowing that tomorrow's not guaranteed, that,
Mhm.
you know, anything could happen, that something could change, or, and I think death or trauma or these big circumstances that happen, really, really changed that. Um, you know, just having gone through the death of a coworker and good friend, like, it really hits hard because you know that it's not guaranteed, that tomorrow is not guaranteed, and it's like, make the most of it while you're here. Like,
Yeah.
do everything you can to change this world, to show the world who you are, to
Mhm.
leave your impact, even
Mhm.
if it's not seen immediately. It could be like, decades down the road that your impact is finally
Yeah,
showed.
for sure. And it
Yeah.
definitely like hold the people you care about so close and like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And you have other, like, people you're close with who are serving in the military too.
Mhm.
So what's that like, now as
Yeah.
an adult?
I think it's definitely weird. My brother joined the military. Um, and that was kind of a shock, honestly, but I kind of get it. I've thought about joining myself. Because I think it, I don't know if this is the reason my brother joined, but I think like the idea of going into the military would make me feel closer to my dad and like
Yeah.
able to experience what he experienced and like what I maybe missed out on, like if he hadn't died so young. I
Hmm.
um so there's that, and then my partner right now is in the Navy and he's on deployment, and that's pretty hard too, but I I think it gives me time to like when he's gone I can like, you know, we have this sort of thing where if he's gone, I'm like trying to focus on myself and like, um, you know, really work on myself a lot. And like, whether that's like mentally or like physically, um, I don't know, because yeah.
Yeah. No, I
Not that I
totally get
don't,
that.
yeah, not that I don't do that when he's here, but I,
You
have
have
more.
the time. You
Yeah.
have the freedom, you have the energy.
Yes.
So, um,
Yeah.
but no, I totally get that. And like what you were saying about joining the military and kind of closing that circle,
Mhm.
um, I totally feel that. Like, you know, like I said, my dad got hurt when I was 12 or
Mhm.
9. He retired when I was 12. And so that was 3 years for recovery. Like there was no, we moved from Ohio to Texas, but then it was just strict recovery.
Yeah.
And then from when I was like an infant to 7, I think, he was
Mhm.
out. He took a 7-year break in service. So like I didn't really experience much military life, besides the trauma from it,
Just the good stuff, you
Just the
know?
good stuff. But it's left a like hole in my heart where it's like I feel like I was placed into this lifestyle and
Mm-hmm.
didn't live it, didn't understand it. I mean, I lived what I was supposed to. Like, the universe does everything for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and everything happens for a reason. And, I'm not saying that, but it's like I feel like I missed out on so much. I talk to people and they're like, I moved so many times. I lived this
Yeah.
18-year military child uh
Yeah.
a career in a sense,
Mhm.
Um, and it's like, okay, that's great, but like I moved twice and I, went through 4 months of a deployment. I was born during a deployment and my sister was born during a deployment the year after. So we were both deployment babies, but I don't remember those.
Yeah.
I remember a couple trainings that my dad left for, but I don't remember. There was never a point in my life where he was gone for 5 months or longer. And
Mhm.
so it's like, okay, how do I fill this hole with
Mhm.
something? And it's like, okay, well, for the longest time, I did not want to marry into the military. I was like, I'm done. I've seen
Yeah.
the trauma. I've seen what can happen, like not happening. It's not in my cards. And
Mhm.
then dating a service member, it's like, oh,
Yes.
you get that fulfillment of, and that's if I was talking to Morgan, she'd be like, "That's some trauma you need to heal from." But
No, me too.
but at the same point, it's like, dating him and being engaged to him was like this fulfills something,
Mhm.
deep
Yeah.
that
It is.
you miss out on. And so, for me, being a spouse is like, oh, that's a goal now. Like that's a dream.
Right.
And I say,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not in control of that fully because, that's my spouse and I'm not going to force someone to join the military. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But like that is like something that it's like, okay, longing for. But again, can't make that decision. That's not my decision to make. But then
Yeah.
it's like finding different ways to be involved with the military community and, doing the podcast, doing events, and surrounding myself with people who get it, who live that lifestyle is fulfillment enough too.
Mhm. I know. It's such a unique um community and
Yeah,
it's amazing.
it
It's
is.
yeah. I
And
love
people
it.
think us that we're crazy for wanting to, for longing for it. And it's like, no, we're not.
No. No. I love going on base. It's like
Yes.
yeah, there's something about it. I don't know if it's like my childhood or it's like this like secret place not everyone can go to. I'm like, I just love being on it.
Yeah, me and my one friend said our ID cards are like little VIP cards.
That's amazing.
But it's the culture, like you walk on base and it's like it's that culture you're in, that environment, Every time I see a uniform, even if it's off base, it's like, oh my gosh, like I feel like I'm home, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's like I feel I don't know how to explain it, but like it's a totally different vibe and it's
Hmm.
like a very respectful and like um I just feel like I need to, sit up straighter
Yeah.
yeah, just, you know.
And a lot of people hate, and if I lived on base, I would probably get quickly annoyed by it too, but 5 o'clock, like you stop what you're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like, it's like, oh, I can't even think of the word, but it's something that it's like, oh, this is special. Like, I'm
Yes.
excited.
Yeah.
But
I have
everyone
this,
hates it because, you know, they live on base and it's every
yeah.
single day. So I can see why it gets annoying, but it's like when you're not there, it's like, oh, little party.
I have this like running, I don't know if you'd call it a joke, but kind of a joke with my
Hmm.
partner. If I hear it, I'm like, I'm standing up, I'm standing at
Hmm.
attention, like the whole time. And he's like, we're inside, like doing
Why
this.
are you doing this? This is not, you don't have to. No, I totally get it though. Because it's little things like that that you cling to. And it's like, oh, like, this is a little bit of adrenaline in my veins. Like, you know, going on base. I swear though, I will say the PX is one of my favorite places to go clothes shopping. So,
It, oh my God, it feels so like again, it feels like not everyone is like allowed to be here. Like
right?
it's you got the military discount.
Yes. There are so many things that it's like, okay, like I really miss this, you know, in the
Mhm.
military life. But
Yeah.
then, you know, like you're saying, it's hard when somebody is away, you know?
Mhm.
And so it's like, then that was my hardest thing in my last relationship of, okay, how do I live alone? Like, how, like, I'm here, you're there, half of my heart is here, half my heart is there. Like, you know, and so that's when you really, and I didn't do it like I should have.
Mhm.
But you know, hindsight's 2020. So you look back and you're like, oh, like that is time for me to be me. That's time for me to work on me and improve me. And um even if that's a parent, like if there are military kids listening to this, like even if your parent is gone, like
Mhm.
for me, it was always when my dad would go, and it sounds ridiculous, but um, it's just how I dealt with it in the moment of like, okay, he'd be gone. There would be TV shows that we would watch together that I wouldn't watch. Like
Mhm.
him and I, still to this day, like we both love Legos. And so when he would go, even if it were for a month and Legos were my favorite toy to play with, I wouldn't play
Yeah.
with Legos.
Yeah.
Like it would be I'd pull them out and I always cried when my dad left. Like always. Like the fact that I didn't cry all of the water out and just
Yeah.
shrivel up was
Yeah.
insane. Um, but if I pulled out Legos, I would just start bawling my eyes out. Or if
Mhm.
our TV show was Phineas and Ferb, and so if I turned Phineas and Ferb on, and or it was on TV, like I would start crying. So
Yeah.
if it was on, I had to like completely block it out and not pay attention to it or go do something else
Mhm.
because it was
It's
just
just
not happening.
it's just a reminder like that they're gone.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
that's something that you used to do, you know, with a parent, with a loved one, with your
Mhm.
spouse, with your partner. Like it's just something that you're so used to doing with them. And then
Mhm.
it's like, all right, well, what do I do now? You're not here. Like
Yeah.
now I can imagine, um, you know, my dad and I are both big football people. Like I could not imagine him being gone like today and having to watch the Browns game by myself. Like I just could not have imagined that. Like that is our thing to do every Sunday.
Yeah. That's awesome. Have you watched it today?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
The game was on at it's like 6 o'clock here. And so
Mhm.
the game was on at 1. So they did win, thankfully.
Yeah. My family is downstairs watching it right now. Watching the
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, football is football is life. I love football. Who wouldn't love football?
I have a hard time following it.
Yeah,
Like I understand the rules. I just like space out after a while.
I get that. It's not for everyone, but
Yeah.
it's
I like it.
definitely it's
Yeah.
my favorite sport.
That's a good one.
It is. But, you know, it's things like that that it's like, all right, well, you're not here. Like, what would I do without you? Like,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
no, like working on yourself and um working on your goals, finding your goals, because let me tell you, that's hard.
Yeah, and it's like it's a good time to do it because like sometimes it's easy to like be a little codependent on someone. Like
Mm-hmm.
I try not to be, but sometimes I can be with my partner.
Yeah.
And like when he's gone, I'm like, okay, Hannah, like it's time for you to like really just, focus
Yeah.
on.
I think that codependency thing, that's like something I struggled with. And
Hmm.
it's like you find someone and you latch on and it's like, all right, well, this is it. Like, this is it
Yeah.
till the end. And
Yeah.
when it's not, and my heartbreak was two
Hmm.
months of being heartbroken.
Yeah.
But when that person even, goes on a deployment or goes
Hmm.
away or has school or something, and it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? Like,
Yeah.
I have all of this free time that I don't like having because I just
Hmm.
keep thinking of you, of what we could be doing.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
finding out what your goals are and
Hmm.
setting your goals and being you is one of the most important things.
I will say it's not easy because, like you said, it's like you want to just be thinking about like them the whole time and like
Mm-hmm.
all the things that could be happening. And like it sucks so much that they are gone. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, like, if you felt this way too, or you feel this way, but it's like, I would feel guilty, like,
Mhm.
not thinking of, you know, my ex when we were in our relationship. Because it was like, oh, well, like, I'm here doing this. And then an hour or two would go by and I wouldn't even cross my mind because I would be busy doing what I was doing. And then it's like, oh, like, even though he's sleeping right now because he's on the other side of the country or on the other side of the world, it's like, I feel so guilty that I just spent 2 hours of my life and you didn't even cross my mind once. But then
Yeah.
it's like, it's so ridiculous. Like, don't feel guilty for it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's little things like that, that being in a military relationship, even though we lived somewhat of it and we understand it more than somebody who has no military background at all would understand,
Hmm.
it gives us kind of that slight advantage.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to understand this.
No, and I feel like part of it could be like because like I don't know, it's almost harder because we want to like fill that void of like our childhood military life with
Yeah,
maybe a little bit. And I feel like that comes with like its own, you know,
its own
issue.
trauma.
Yeah, its own, yeah, everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely, I think now, especially at our age, it's just like filling the voids, filling the voids. And
Mhm.
I do hope your relationship works out. I don't want to,
Oh,
I do hope it works out. But it's like, and if that fills the void for you, then great. But it's like there are, it could not, and you have to find something where it's like, okay, like I have to fill this void. I have to deal with the trauma that happened, you know, a decade ago, over a
yeah.
decade ago,
No,
um,
totally.
and fill that and figure out what can satisfy that need for
Mhm.
happiness, for joy, because it's just gonna keep spiraling down, and then we're gonna be in our 40s and 50s, and it's like, okay, what are we gonna
Yeah.
do now? Because
Yeah.
I'm still dealing with this from when I was like 9.
No, it's so hard. And yeah, it's it's interesting how much like one huge experience can like just affect you for so long.
Yeah, like it just keep until you really go through, break it down and deal with it. It's
Mhm.
just like you think you've dealt with it, but you've really just suppressed it enough to be like, okay, we're good now. And then
Yeah.
one thing that happens and it will trigger it, and it's like, oh, nope, haven't dealt with that yet. Let's have
Yeah.
another breakdown and then suppress it again and then reset the cycle.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So
Constant work.
it is. It really is. And, unfortunately enough, it's just going to be constant work through the end. Like,
Mhm.
you're going to have to constantly, fight the demons of, this catastrophic thing happened in my life. And it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? Like, how do
Yeah.
I move on? And once you figure out how to move on, like, I mean, for me, it was in a person. Well,
Hmm.
when that person left, what do I have now? Like,
Hmm.
I have to
Yeah.
you have to figure out how to deal with it yourself. And for me,
Yeah.
I always figure that out in another person or
Mhm.
something that's not permanent, something that's temporary. And it doesn't work out that well that way.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I feel like sometimes, like, I don't know what the answer is necessarily, because I'm, still figuring it out. But I feel
Hmm.
like sometimes, like, at least for me, like, I almost have to like keep my dad's values in my
Yeah.
heart when I'm going through life. Because if I like forget about his values, which are like things like, be a really kind person, love people. Um, he was just a great person. Like
Yeah.
everyone loved him. But if I don't keep that in my heart, then I don't feel connected to him anymore. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes like throughout life, like you go through other experiences that might make you kind of not want to, be a loving person. Like sometimes it's hard to, trust people and all that. And the more you like step away from like who your parent was, I feel like when like all the love that you felt and all that, like I can only speak for myself, but the more I step away from that, the less I feel connected to him. And that's really hard.
Yeah. And I think, having that connection, especially to someone who's gone and having that connection and, carrying on their values, I think that is the most impactful thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, that in itself is healing, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
It
and
is.
being kind to people, helping people, being there for people. And, um, you know, it's so just impactful to do that
Mm-hmm.
and know that your parent is in a sense living through you. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's huge.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Especially like when it's been so long, because like
Right.
um the longer it is, like it is harder to feel like the memories. I don't want to say that they fade away, but like a
They
little
still
bit.
do.
Yeah. Um, and so like you can't always, you know, remember them through like those memories, but you can remember them through who they were.
Right.
That can, you know, keep you connected.
Right. And because of how young you were,
Mm-hmm.
even it's hard to remember things that happen when you're
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
six. And
Yeah.
so having like concrete memories like that, you don't necessarily do that. You remember those values of people and those characteristics of them and how they treated others and how they treated you. And you remember those more than you do like, oh, we're going to the store today. We're going to the park today. We're doing,
Yeah.
XYZ.
Yes.
We're going to the zoo or something, that you did with that person. You remember who they were and how they acted and how they treated others. And those, values over memories stick out so much more.
Yes. 100%.
No. And that's, and while it's hard to say, okay, I'm going to be just like this person. Like you have to be your own person.
Yeah.
And, even though like carrying on those values, like you said, it's hard to trust people. It's hard to do all of that, especially now in this world. Like it's so hard to trust people. It's so hard to be nice to everyone, especially just the way everything is now. And so it's like, okay, you do something and then it's like, okay, well, let me step back. Like, was that the right thing to do? Like,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
then, remembering, like, I always go through and say, what would this person have done? How would this person have handled this situation? And then it's like, okay, like, I feel more confident now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So the last thing I want to ask you is what advice would you give to another military child?
Mm-hmm. I would say stay connected to the friends that you have. Especially if you're younger, you have like really close friends and then you move and you don't like when you don't stay connected to them, it's like you look back and you're like, oh my God, I miss this person, but I don't even know their last name.
Yeah.
I think
that's the hard part.
Yeah, for real. So I think there's that. And then I don't know, I wasn't in the military lifestyle long enough, I feel like. But take care of yourself, because there is a lot of moving around and there's a lot of like experiences that a lot of people don't have. And I think it can get hard. And because a lot of people don't have those experiences, there's like, not everyone gets it. So, reach out to that military community and listen to your podcast.
You're so sweet.
But yeah.
No, I seriously think, having your military community behind you is the most important thing, and keeping your community, because like you said, you have to like keep those contacts and those connections. And if you don't do that, then you got to put the work in to get anything back. So if you put the work in to keep those connections, keep that community, then you'll get it right back. But if you don't, then that's where it's hard. And especially at a young age, like at least for us, we didn't have cell phones at like, at 10, where other people have cell phones at 10 now, at 8, younger. Blows my mind. So it's easy to stay in contact with people. We had to write letters, and that wasn't happening all the time. So
exactly. Yeah. I would say, for parents, like if your kid has like friends, get in touch with their parents. And
that's huge.
Because you'll probably like, if you're in the military lifestyle long enough, you'll probably see them again.
Yes.
I really don't know if that's true, but
sometimes it happens. Sometimes it doesn't. But it's a small world. Like somebody's gonna know. Like every time you move, I've always it's not 100%, but a good majority of the time, like you have a mutual friend somewhere, the place that you're going to. So like, don't burn bridges either. That'll come back. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Hannah, for being on the podcast and sharing your journey.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Grace of a Military Child and Life podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to give it a like, follow, and comment. Also, be sure to check out Instagram and Facebook at Grace of a Military Child and Life for more awesome content. For information on the podcast, Military Child Bigs and Littles, GoAMCL blog, or other resources, visit www.goamcl.org. You can also email me at Gracie That's gracie@goamcl.org with any questions or comments. To be a guest on the podcast, you can schedule it at www.goamcl.org/schedule a podcast, all one word, or contact me via social media or email. Stay tuned for the next episode where another incredible story is shared.